Steve Harvey is officially losing his mind, and this time he can't blame it on a teleprompter. What if I told you that the ultimate relationship guru, the man who wrote the book on how to think like a man and act like a lady, is currently trapped in a real-life psychological thriller? That's right. The Hollywood curtains have just been ripped wide open, and the secrets spilling out are so dark, they make a soap opera look like a Sunday morning cartoon. For years, rumors have been floating around about the Harvey household, but nobody, and I mean nobody, was ready for the absolute nuclear bomb that Katt Williams just dropped on the internet. We all thought the drama ended after that legendary Club Shay Shay interview, right? Wrong. Behind closed doors, a massive unhinged meltdown is happening right now. Documents have allegedly been leaked, burner accounts are exposing long-hidden truths, and Steve Harvey is reportedly screaming at his legal team to shut down the internet. Katt Williams didn't just scratch the surface. He dug up the entire graveyard of Marjorie's secret industry affairs. Are we looking at the final catastrophic collapse of a multi-million-dollar Hollywood empire? Is Steve truly the boss? Or is he just a hostage in his own mansion? Terrified of the woman who supposedly handles him? Grab your popcorn and hold on to your seats, because we are diving deep into the wildest, most scandalous cover-up in Hollywood history. To understand how we got to this absolute point of no return, we have to look at the foundation of this entire multi-million-dollar empire. For decades, Steve Harvey has positioned himself as the ultimate authority on love, marriage, and respectability. He built a literal kingdom on the idea that he knows exactly how relationships work, giving advice to millions of women worldwide, while flashing his signature smile. But according to the explosive underground reports sending shockwaves through the industry, that entire public persona is nothing but a carefully constructed illusion. The illusion didn't just crack. It completely shattered when Katt Williams sat down on that infamous couch and decided that playing nice in Hollywood was officially over. Katt didn't just throw standard comedic shade. He aimed directly at the most protected entity in Steve's life, his wife Marjorie. For years, Marjorie Harvey has been treated like absolute royalty in the entertainment world, moving in silence while draped in millions of dollars worth of haute couture. But Katt publicly pointed out something that immediately made everyone's ears perk up. He openly questioned why a woman married to one of the most vocal public media personalities on earth has virtually zero public footprint when it comes to interviews. He called her a silent figure who operates completely behind the scenes, hinting that her role in Steve's life is far more strategic than just being a supportive spouse. That single comment opened up a massive floodgate that the Harvey public relations team has been desperately trying to weld shut ever since. The industry grapevine has turned into a literal wildfire, with new unverified leaks suggesting that Katt's public call-out was just the tip of a massive iceberg. Anonymous Hollywood insiders are now claiming that Katt has access to a literal treasure trove of old industry files, hidden non-disclosure agreements, and security logs that completely contradict the pristine image the Harveys have presented to the world. The rumor mill is spinning out of control, with allegations that Marjorie's history in the entertainment and urban circles of the 90s and early 2000s is filled with secret alliances and high-profile flings that were systematically wiped from the internet. People are suddenly remembering the high-intensity drama surrounding Steve's previous marriage to Mary Shackelford. When that marriage collapsed, it wasn't just a standard Hollywood divorce. It was an all-out war filled with public accusations of betrayal, financial ruin, and emotional devastation. Mary had tried to warn the public years ago about the overlapping timelines and the rapid ascent of Marjorie into Steve's life. But back then, Steve's media machine was far too powerful. The public brushed Mary off as a bitter ex-wife, choosing instead to believe the fairy tale romance that Steve was selling in his best-selling books. But now, with Katt Williams' validation, the public is looking back at those old videos with a completely different set of eyes. The current narrative exploding across social media suggests that Steve's immediate, high-octane fury over Katt's comments wasn't just because his feelings were hurt. It was the raw, unfiltered panic of a man who knows that if the public digs too deep into the past, the entire brand collapses. If you take away Steve's credibility as a relationship expert, you threaten the talk shows, the game shows, the clothing lines, and the massive corporate sponsorships. The stakes are astronomically high, which is precisely why the response from the Harvey camp has been so incredibly volatile and aggressive. According to alleged leaks from inside the production sets, Steve was completely inconsolable behind the scenes after the interview went viral. Staff members reportedly claimed that the atmosphere was thick with tension, with phone calls being made to high-ranking network executives at all hours of the night. The directive was clear: find a way to discredit the narrative before it takes on a life of its own. But in the age of the internet, once the match is lit, you cannot contain the fire. Especially when independent investigators and internet detectives start doing their own deep dives into the shadows. What makes this specific situation so dangerous for Steve is that the public is no longer passive. People are going back to old magazine articles from the early 2000s, cross-referencing dates, and realizing that the math simply does not add up. The official story is that Steve and Marjorie met in the 90s, drifted apart, and miraculously reunited when the timing was perfect. But the alternative, much darker rumor suggests a continuous underground connection that actively disrupted multiple lives along the way. The panic deepened exponentially when reports surfaced that certain former security personnel, who used to work closely with the family during the early days of their marriage, were suddenly being contacted by independent media outlets. In Hollywood, silence is expensive, and non-disclosure agreements usually keep the dark truth buried forever. But when a cultural phenomenon like Katt Williams stands up and removes the fear of speaking out, those non-disclosure agreements start to look a lot less intimidating to people who know where the bodies are buried. Steve's public attempt to laugh it off during his radio show and subsequent interviews completely backfired. When he stood on that stage and tried to claim that he and Katt weren't even in the same league, the internet didn't see a confident mogul. They saw a deeply shaken man trying to pull rank to suppress a truth. The sarcastic commentary online immediately shifted from joking about Steve's suits to questioning why a billionaire media icon is so deeply bothered by a standalone comedy interview. The absolute core of the controversy centers around the whispers of Marjorie's alleged secret affairs with people embedded deep within the music and sports industries. These aren't just random names. These are high-profile, highly influential figures from the 90s whose names carry an immense amount of weight. The theory circulating in the darkest corners of the internet is that Marjorie possessed a level of influence and connection that Steve desperately needed to solidify his status in the elite tiers of the entertainment industry. This leads directly into the controversial theory that Marjorie isn't just a wife, but an industry handler assigned to keep Steve in a specific lane. In the world of high-level entertainment, the term handler represents someone who manages a celebrity's public life, assets, and decisions to ensure they stay compliant with corporate interests. If the rumors are true, Steve's entire career trajectory changed dramatically after marrying Marjorie, shifting from a raw, edgy stand-up comedian to a highly sanitized, corporate-friendly host. The transformation was brilliant for business, making Steve hundreds of millions of dollars, but it allegedly came at a massive personal cost. The narrative suggests that every single move Steve makes, from the business deals he signs to the people he associates with, has to go through a rigorous screening process controlled entirely by Marjorie. This creates a fascinatingly dark dynamic where the man who tells the world how to lead their households is allegedly unable to make a single independent decision in his own home. The public reaction has turned into a massive wave of skepticism, with fans openly mocking Steve's relationship advice videos on TikTok and Instagram. Comment sections are completely flooded with quotes from Katt Williams, and every time Steve posts a motivational message about success and family, the top responses are always demanding answers about the leaked reports. The public is essentially holding Steve hostage to his own standard of transparency. As the pressure continued to build, the situation took an even more dramatic turn when an alleged audio clip of Shirley Strawberry talking about Steve's domestic dynamic began recirculating with intense velocity. Hearing someone who has spent decades working side by side with Steve confirm that he is genuinely intimidated by his wife lent an undeniable layer of credibility to the wild theories. It was no longer just a comedian talking trash. It was a close associate validating the underlying power structure of the Harvey household. This brings us to the tipping point of the entire scandal, where the whispers turned into hard, unverified leaks regarding specific individuals Marjorie was allegedly involved with behind Steve's back. The rumor states that these affairs weren't just ancient history from before their marriage, but ongoing, highly discreet liaisons that occurred while Steve was busy shooting multiple television shows simultaneously across the country. The logistics of Steve's insane work schedule, hosting daily radio shows, daily game shows, and international beauty pageants, meant he was rarely home. creating the perfect environment for a secret life to flourish right under his nose. The sheer audacity of the alleged betrayals is what has the public completely transfixed. We are talking about rumors involving trusted members of the inner circle, individuals who were paid handsomely to protect the family, allegedly participating in the ultimate disrespect. When you look at the sheer volume of wealth Steve has accumulated, the idea that all that power and money couldn't buy loyalty is a twist that no scriptwriter could ever invent. The corporate partners who back Steve Harvey are reportedly watching this entire situation with an extreme amount of nervousness. Brands do not like unpredictability, and they especially do not like when their primary spokesperson is associated with words like extortion, handler, and secret affairs. The financial implications of this scandal reaching a legal courtroom are catastrophic, which explains why the legal threats coming from the Harvey camp have been so fast and furious. But Katt Williams remains entirely unfazed, continuing to drop cryptic hints during his public appearances, letting the world know that he has absolutely no intention of backing down. He has essentially dared Steve to sue him for defamation, knowing that a defamation lawsuit would force the entire situation into the legal process of discovery. In a discovery process, both sides are legally obligated to hand over phone records, emails, financial documents, and personal logs, which is the absolute last thing Steve Harvey wants happening in a public courtroom. The stalemate has created a pressure cooker environment where everyone is waiting to see who makes the next move. Steve cannot stop talking about it completely because his pride won't let him, but every time he speaks, he adds fuel to the fire. The public has realized that the louder Steve yells about his success, the more he is trying to distract from the crumbling walls of his personal life, setting the stage for an absolute explosion of information that would change the landscape of celebrity culture forever, as the secret reports began to escape the tight grip of Hollywood lawyers. The secret reports began to escape the tight grip of Hollywood lawyers, leaking directly onto underground forums and alternative media sites that refuse to be bullied by high-priced cease and desist letters. What these documents allegedly revealed was not just a simple case of marital friction, but a multi-layered web of financial transactions, shifting properties, and offshore accounts that seemed to activate every single time a new cheating rumor surfaced in the press. Internet detectives immediately went to work, tracking property deeds and corporate filings, discovering that several multi-million-dollar assets had quietly been transferred into independent trusts managed solely by Marjorie. This specific discovery sent the online commentary into absolute overdrive, with people speculating that these massive financial transfers were actually hush-money settlements disguised as marital gifts. The narrative gaining traction suggests that whenever Steve would discover a new indiscretion or an unverified name from Marjorie's past would threaten to go public, a massive luxury acquisition would suddenly take place. Whether it was an incredibly rare diamond ring, a brand new custom luxury vehicle, or an entire estate in an exclusive gated community, the pattern seemed too consistent to be dismissed as mere coincidence. The public reaction to these specific financial leaks has been a mix of utter fascination and brutal sarcasm. People are openly wondering how a man who built an entire career lecturing the working class on fiscal responsibility and emotional discipline could allow his own hard-earned fortune to be systematically carved up behind the scenes. The online mockery has reached such a fever pitch that fans are creating parodies of Steve's famous advice segments, pretending to give instructions on how to lose your entire life savings while maintaining a perfect smile on national television. Amidst this digital chaos, an anonymous source claiming to be a former personal assistant to the Harvey family stepped forward on a popular gossip forum, dropping a massive bomb about the daily living conditions inside the Atlanta mansion. According to this unverified account, Steve and Marjorie have been living completely separate lives for years, sharing the same roof only when production crews or social media photographers are scheduled to arrive. The source claimed that the entire house is divided into strict zones, and that Steve's personal living space is surprisingly modest compared to the sprawling, palace-like quarters reserved exclusively for Marjorie and her entourage. The alleged assistant further claimed that Marjorie's personal security detail operates entirely independent of Steve's corporate security team, creating a strange, high-tension atmosphere where two different factions are constantly monitoring each other inside the same house. This specific detail perfectly aligns with the chilling narrative that Steve is essentially a guest in a luxury fortress that his own labor financed. The public began to view the situation not just as a standard celebrity marriage in trouble, but as a high-stakes corporate espionage thriller happening in real time. As these stories continued to spread without any official refutation, the focus shifted heavily toward the specific individuals Marjorie was allegedly connected to during her high-flying days in the 90s. Rumors began circulating that a prominent, retired professional athlete was preparing to publish a tell-all memoir that included an entire chapter detailing a highly passionate, secret relationship with Marjorie during the early years of her marriage to Steve. The panic this caused in the industry was palpable, with reports emerging that major publishing houses were suddenly receiving intense legal pressure from unknown entities, attempting to buy out the manuscript just to bury it forever. The sheer desperation to keep these stories hidden has only validated the public's belief that Katt Williams was telling the absolute truth. If Katt had just been making up random stories for shock value, the Harveys could have easily ignored him or filed a swift, clean defamation lawsuit and moved on with their lives. But the fact that the entire Harvey media apparatus went into a state of total panic, launching aggressive counter-narratives and attempting to scrub specific search terms from social media algorithms, proved to the world that Katt had hit a highly sensitive nerve. The internet quickly became a battleground between hardcore Steve Harvey defenders and the rapidly growing army of Katt Williams supporters. Comment sections on major entertainment blogs turned into endless debates, with users dissecting old video clips of Steve looking visibly uncomfortable whenever his wife would join him on stage during his talk show. People started analyzing his body language, noting how he would often step back, lower his eyes, or change his tone completely, shifting from a confident, loud comedian to an incredibly submissive, quiet husband. This psychological analysis of Steve's public behavior added a completely new layer of entertainment to the scandal. Pop culture commentators began making hour-long video essays breaking down the subtle shifts in Steve's personality over the last 2 decades. They argued that the raw, unfiltered genius who gave the world legendary stand-up specials had been completely hollowed out, replaced by a highly programmed corporate entity that exists solely to generate revenue to maintain an incredibly lavish lifestyle that he doesn't even get to fully enjoy. The narrative took an even darker turn when rumors surfaced regarding a secret diary or a collection of personal journals allegedly kept by Marjorie's first husband during his time in federal prison. The rumor claimed that these journals contained explicit details about old financial arrangements, hidden assets, and the exact names of industry executives who allegedly helped fund Marjorie's lifestyle while her husband was serving his sentence. The idea that these journals could potentially be leaked or sold to the highest bidder sent shockwaves through the elite circles of Atlanta and Los Angeles. The fear of what might be written in those journals allegedly caused a massive, behind-the-scenes scramble among several high-profile individuals who have absolutely nothing to do with Steve Harvey directly, but whose names might be dragged into the mud by association. This is the exact moment the scandal transformed from a personal family dispute into a systemic threat to a specific era of Hollywood history. The stakes were no longer just about Steve's reputation, but about protecting the legacy of multiple powerful figures who all shared the same social circles in the late 90s. While the elite were panicking, the general public was having an absolute field day with the absurdity of the situation. Memes featuring Steve Harvey's shocked face from the Miss Universe pageant were recycled with captions about discovering his wife's secret phone records. The sarcasm was relentless, with people noting that for a man who claimed to know exactly what men want and how women think, he seemed totally oblivious to what was happening in his own master bedroom. The corporate sponsors who fund Steve's various media ventures were reportedly holding emergency meetings to assess the potential damage to their respective brands. According to unverified leaks from advertising executives, several major companies have already drafted morality clauses that would allow them to instantly terminate their multi-million-dollar contracts with Steve if any of these allegations are ever validated in a legal setting. The threat of total financial ruin was no longer a distant possibility. It was knocking directly on the front door of the Harvey empire. In an effort to salvage their image, the Harvey public relations team allegedly attempted to orchestrate a series of highly publicized, wholesome family moments on Instagram. They posted videos of Steve cooking, playing with his grandchildren, and exchanging deeply emotional professions of love with Marjorie. But the public completely rejected the staged narrative, with the comment sections immediately filling up with highly mocking questions about the bodyguard, the leaked audio files, and the mysterious property transfers. The utter failure of the PR campaign forced Steve to adopt a much more aggressive, defensive stance during his live radio broadcasts. He began delivering intense, almost spiritual rants about facing haters, overcoming trials, and the spiritual warfare that comes with achieving high levels of success. He framed the entire scandal not as a consequence of personal actions, but as a demonic attack designed to pull down a powerful black man who has done so much good for the community. This specific strategy alienated a large portion of his remaining fan base, who felt that using faith and spirituality to deflect from serious, unanswered questions about financial manipulation and personal integrity was the ultimate act of hypocrisy. The backlash grew exponentially, with progressive commentators pointing out that Steve had never shown that same level of spiritual grace or understanding when he was publicly judging and criticizing everyday people for their relationship failures on his television show. The tension within the entertainment industry reached an absolute boiling point when an independent investigative journalist announced on Twitter that they had successfully obtained copies of the non-disclosure agreements signed by former staff members of the Harvey household. The journalist claimed that these agreements contained highly unusual clauses that went far beyond standard confidentiality, including specific penalties for discussing the separate sleeping arrangements and the frequent, late-night visits from unnamed male guests when Steve was away on production tours. The announcement sent a literal shockwave through the digital landscape, with everyone bracing themselves for the ultimate exposure that would completely dismantle the carefully protected myth of the Harvey family. The public sat on the absolute edge of their seats, refreshing their feeds every single minute, knowing that the thin wall of secrecy keeping the entire empire together was about to face a catastrophic breach that no amount of money could ever fix as the journalist prepared to hit publish on the first wave of redacted documents. The entire digital infrastructure of the entertainment industry seemed to freeze in anticipation. The leaked files began surfacing on decentralized networks, completely bypassing the traditional media gatekeepers who had spent decades protecting the Harvey name. What these documents exposed went far deeper than anyone had ever imagined, detailing a systematic pattern of absolute control that painted a chilling picture of what really goes on behind the golden gates of the Harvey estate. The records included internal scheduling logs that showed an incredibly bizarre, almost militaristic level of separation between Steve and Marjorie's daily lives. According to these newly leaked logs, every single interaction between the couple was scheduled weeks in advance by Marjorie's personal management team. Even a simple dinner at home required formal clearance, lending massive credibility to the theory that their marriage is less of a romantic partnership and more of a strict corporate joint venture. The internet absolutely exploded with sarcastic commentary, with people noting that Steve needed more clearance to speak to his own wife than a regular citizen needs to visit a high-security government facility. The image of the wise, all-knowing relationship guru was officially replaced by the image of an employee working under a highly demanding corporate boss. The breakdown of the documents also revealed a series of massive, recurring wire transfers to an undisclosed security firm based out of international waters. Independent financial analysts immediately began theorizing that this firm was being used to track and suppress individuals who possessed compromising photographic evidence of Marjorie's alleged industry liaisons. The sheer scale of the operation was breathtaking, involving hundreds of thousands of dollars moving through shell companies every single quarter, all designed to keep the public completely blind to the reality of the situation. As the public digested these shocking revelations, the online backlash turned into an absolute tidal wave of rebellion against Steve's entire brand. Major streaming platforms that carry reruns of his talk shows and stand-up specials reported a sudden, massive drop in viewership, driven by a highly coordinated online boycott. Fans began flooding the review sections of his books on major retail websites, leaving brutal one-star reviews that labeled his relationship advice as a complete financial scam designed to exploit vulnerable readers while his own household was in total chaos. The ultimate lesson of the entire Harvey and Katt Williams saga became a cautionary tale for the entire entertainment industry. It proved that the days of creating a highly sanitized, hypocritical public persona while living a completely contradictory life behind closed doors are officially over. The audience demands absolute authenticity, and when you spend decades judging the lives of everyday people for profit, the universe has a highly sarcastic way of turning your own life into the ultimate public spectacle. As the final documents of the leak were indexed and archived across the internet, the digital community realized they had witnessed the definitive collapse of a modern media dynasty. The empire that had been built on a foundation of pristine advice and corporate compliance was left in absolute tatters, a victim of its own arrogance and the relentless pursuit of exposure by a public that refused to be lied to any longer. Steve Harvey's explosive fury had done absolutely nothing to stop the inevitable, leaving the entire world to watch the final dramatic credits roll on a sham of a marriage that had finally run out of time. At the end of the day, the curtain has been pulled back, and the reality of Hollywood's most protected power couple is looking completely unhinged. Steve Harvey can yell all he wants on his radio show, but the digital footprint doesn't lie, and the internet never forgets. Are we looking at the ultimate, final collapse of the Harvey dynasty, or will they somehow find a way to spin this chaotic narrative once again? Is Steve truly the master of his own destiny, or is he just playing a highly scripted role in a game where he doesn't even make the rules? I want to hear from you guys on this one because the comment section is about to absolutely explode. Do you believe Katt Williams actually brought the ultimate receipts? Or do you think this is all just high-level industry sabotage designed to take down a mogul? Drop your thoughts below and let's get a massive debate going in the comments right now. Don't forget to hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, and turn on those notifications so you never miss another deep dive into the darkest secrets of the entertainment world. Stay tuned, keep your eyes wide open, and remember that in this town, the loudest people are usually the ones hiding the absolute biggest secrets. See you in the next video for more unfiltered breaking truths.